If you've been blindsided by a breakup at the hands of a dismissive avoidant, trying to solve the mystery of what caused the breakup, it'll swallow up your entire world. Avoidants are the eternal emotional cliffhanger. They always leave you wanting more. They ignored you yesterday. Oh, but they texted you back today. What's going to happen next? Nothing. Not if this relationship dynamic never changes between the two of you. You know, the dynamic where they continue to float along while you toil in the struggle to try to help save them from themselves. I'm sure, just like me, you've watched videos, read books, recommended books to your avoidant ex, and between the two of you, which one of you clicked on this video today? Yeah, you did, and I get it. I was once right where you are, doing everything that I could to learn about avoidant attachers so I could reconnect with my avoidant ex. And what did I get for investing hours and hours and hours of my time learning about avoidant attachment? This YouTube channel, where I come on here and do my best to convince you don't take the path that I took because I was wrong. Avoidants, they're not as interesting as I thought they were, but I did learn a few interesting things along the way. So grab that bottle of nail polish and let's talk. A lot of times people will tell me that sleeping with an avoidant is one of the most incredible bedroom experiences they have ever had. But I want you to take a moment and really think about why that might be. It's because when you were with them, you had such strong feelings for them. You felt connected to them, and you thought that you were both on the same page when it came to how you felt about each other. It is a crappy feeling to think that the entire time they had one foot emotionally out the door, ready to go at a moment's notice if things between you actually got to a point where the feelings were too serious. That's one of the reasons why avoidants aren't that interesting. I don't know that they were having as incredible of a moment as you were if they were allowing themselves to feel the same connection that you were. Well, I guess they wouldn't be very avoidant, would they? But you allowed yourself to be vulnerable, and you allowed yourself to open up to someone that you love and feel that connection. You were the person who was making those moments so incredible. Avoidants are not that interesting because they will not allow themselves to have deep, meaningful connections with other people, and connections with people are what make life worth living. Connections are what give our lives value, and I'm not going to apologize for seeking out connections with people. I'm only going to apologize for trying so hard to hold on to a connection with someone who would let me in a little and then slam my fingers in the door. And why was I standing at that door for so long anyway? Nothing going on the other side was even that interesting. You know, we get this idea, and I think it's because of the avoidant energy, that they're so much more important than we are, and their lives are so much more interesting than ours. And it's not true. Their lives are just like ours. They have family obligations, crappy bosses, car trouble. They get bills in the mail just like you do. But one of the things that does make life sweeter is when you have a connection with someone who simply cares if you got a flat tire on your way home from work. It's a nice feeling when people care about us, and you can pretend for a long time like you prefer to be alone in this world. But I believe that eventually the human condition will kick in, that need for that feeling that someone cares about you is going to sneak up on you. And I believe that's why avoidants like to breadcrumb and keep the door open, because just like everyone else, deep down, they still have a need to feel cared for. And wouldn't it be so much more interesting if they decided to punch fear in the face, stand up and say, I want love, and I'm going to face my fear, and I'm going to get some help, and I'm going to do something about it. Let me tell you about brave people. Last night was New Year's Eve, and I was speaking to my friend who I'll call Janet. Now, Janet has been beat up in love. She's 32 years old, and she went back out on the dating apps. It's been a total disaster. And she told me, Maria, I'm really not happy with the, I guess let's say, caliber of men that are propositioning me. And when I meet them out, they're not treating me very well. They don't treat me with very much respect. Well, Janet is now also acknowledging that over the years, she hasn't taken care of herself. She hasn't treated herself with very much respect. So she's going to start getting down to the nitty-gritty of things, and she decided to do something she's never done before. She made a huge investment in herself, and she got herself a personal trainer and a membership at Crunch Fitness, and she's been getting up and going every morning 6 days a week. Janet is a very shy, introverted person, but she told me that she finally realized if there are certain things she wants for her love life, then it's going to take her going out, making the investment in herself, gaining some confidence, meeting people out in public. She was like, there might not be men I like at the gym, but maybe I'll meet some women who have some interesting brothers at the gym. And that's a great way to look at things. And buns of steel never hurt either. But Janet, if you're watching this, welcome to the other half, where we know attraction is not just about looks. We also have to take care of the inner half. Because if you aren't mentally fit when you get out there into the dating world, you're going to meet all kinds of losers who breadcrumb you, ghost you, stand you up, let you down, avoidants who haven't processed their baggage, yet you feel like the loser. A lot of times as anxious people, when we get blown off, stood up, or dumped, we internalize it as we aren't good enough. We are the loser. But if you've ever read books or watched movies, the classics, where the stories are timeless, there always seems to be, over all the years, the takeaways, the morals of these stories seem to remain exactly the same. Bullies who mentally mess with other people and make them feel crappy about themselves, they are the losers. Cowards who run away when the going gets tough. No one makes movies with these characters as the main character because they take the easy way out. There's no character development. They don't grow. They don't face obstacles and overcome them. These characters are not interesting. They lose. Avoidants are going to lose out on feeling what it's like to be 100% vulnerable with another human being and find out that it's okay to be themselves. They're going to lose out on knowing what it's like to face something scary and force themselves to walk through it. But you know that feeling, don't you? Because you've been facing scary things your entire life. People who disappoint you, let you down, and walk out on you. And yet you're still on this channel going through a breakup because even though in your past people have disappointed you, you're still out there taking risks to find the love that you want. No, you don't always win. Sometimes you go through a really cruddy breakup, but you come out on the other side and you survive it. And it's one of the most important life lessons that you can learn is you can face scary things and survive them. And it gives you the confidence you're not going to let the world just take every little thing from you and decide who you are and slap this stupid label on you like you're clingy, you're needy, and it makes you feel like a loser. And now, if you don't get your ex back, you're not somebody who's lovable. And it's false. Right now, I know it doesn't feel like it, but you are the character that people want to root for. You are the underdog that feels like they have nothing to offer, yet faces adversity, and you find out that everything you ever needed, you had it inside of you all along. You don't need your ex's validation. They are not that important, and they are not that interesting. You know who else doesn't need their ex's validation? A viewer that I would like to celebrate today, because a couple of weeks ago, his avoidant ex had a birthday, and even though he said it was a big struggle for him, he made the choice not to text her. This man is becoming the hero of his own story in 2025. And if you want my opinion, what I think is going to happen is when you get a little space from this and you look back, you'll realize that a decision on whether or not to text your ex on their birthday, someone who dumped you, that decision really isn't that interesting. It only feels like it because right now your attachment system is going crazy. But you know what's actually interesting? Having a girlfriend who's excited about your birthday and you guys plan something fun and you have some time to look forward to it and you enjoy the day together. Now that is fun. That is interesting. Dismissive avoidants who are not interested in healing, they are not that interesting. My theory is you are probably the only person on this planet that continues to make them interesting. And don't get me wrong, I understand why you were so attracted to them in the first place. You know, a lot of times when we get into relationships with people, we get into relationships with people who have qualities and traits that we admire. And if you are someone who struggles in your autonomy and setting boundaries, then someone who walks around acting like they don't care what anybody thinks, well, they seem pretty cool. But if right now you are struggling in finding who you are and defining yourself and defining your boundaries in relationships, you might have a hard time telling the difference between people who are cool and people who are callous. And before you know it, you accidentally get tangled up with someone who not only doesn't care what anybody else thinks, well, they don't care about anything that you think either, or anything that you feel. It's funny now looking back, after I got dumped, I would go on like social media, or maybe I'd go to a social gathering because me and my ex had some mutual friends, and I would see him there being so polite, laughing at other people's jokes, telling stories that were so interesting. And I would get so heated. I could feel my anger bubbling up watching him being charismatic with everyone else, because that's what I wanted. I wanted that feeling back when we would go to a party and he would treat me like I was special, like I was the only woman in the room. But now when I look back, I am not angry anymore. Because the truth is, if I really want to go back to a time where he was interested in me and he was treating me very kind and charismatically, I'd also have to go back to a time where I didn't know him very well. Because as I got to know him better, I got treated a lot worse. Over time, he became more and more comfortable showing me that other side of him. The side that was extremely neglectful, mean, and cold. We think avoidants are so interesting and we first start dating them and they're so cool. But they're cold. They've learned to be cold. That's how they survive. And yeah, it is sad. But go cry from a distance. Save yourself. Save your life. Go out and live your interesting life. This avoidant person is not as interesting as you think. They're just an open loop, and our brains don't like open loops. So we ruminate on what caused the breakup until we get an answer. And that sucks because your avoidant ex will most likely never give you a genuine answer. This is why it's really important that you give yourself an answer. Sit down with a clean sheet of paper and write out an answer so you can help settle your thoughts down. Avoidants are people that we just want to love. I know you want to help them, but you can't. And it's not your job, and you're not qualified to fix somebody with those kinds of issues. Maybe someday they'll lose something so precious that it'll give them pause and give them a reason to begin the process of helping and healing themselves. And unfortunately, maybe the thing that they're going to have to lose is a relationship with you. And I know that that's frustrating because you feel like, well, you lose too. But honestly, if the relationship is just going to keep going the way that it's going, or you guys aren't even in a relationship right now and it's still making you just feel down about everything, and it's making you feel whatever you felt where you needed to come on this channel in the first place, you are not losing anything. You know, you can waste so much time in this life trying to figure out why other people don't want to be around you or why other people don't like you. But it's no way to live, I promise you. Please, don't make that your life in 2025. I used to think there were all kinds of interesting questions that I thought I needed answers to, like, how do I get my ex back? How do I get my ex to chase me? How do I get my ex to regret dumping me? How do I make my ex obsess over me? These questions are boring. I used to think the answers to these questions were so interesting until the day I sat down, painted my nails, and I started asking the really interesting questions. Why do I need this person back in my life who makes me feel so awful? Why do I only go after people who don't take me seriously? Why do I feel like I'm not allowed to have needs and boundaries in relationships? And while I'm at it, what the heck is a boundary? What is missing in my life that makes me feel like if I don't have this one person, it's not even worth getting out of bed in the morning? Why do I focus so much on other people when there are plenty of things that I can work on in my own life? When you begin to try to figure out the answers to these questions, you'll find out that learning about yourself is so much more of an interesting adventure than trying to figure out someone who can't even be bothered to take you out on one date. You learn how to improve things in yourself and in your life, and as a natural progression, better relationships will blossom. And everyone knows, knowledge is flower. That's right. We're still doing it in 2025. My name is Maria Adriana. You did not have to live my life, but I certainly hope you can learn something from it. As always, thank you for visiting The Other Half.